Welcome to #Wednesdays Weekly, a weekly information session in collaboration with voluntary sector and public sector partners. This week, the hosts are Elaine, Boyle, Graham Thomas and Stephen Kenny from Census. Over to you guys.
Hello and thank you, Hayley. I'll share my screen now. Great stuff. So thank you everyone for attending, either live or virtually. And we're here from Census. My name's Elaine Boyle and I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Bury and Rochdale. And I'm joined by Steve Kenny, who is the Community Engagement Manager for Oldham, and Graham Thomas, who is the Community Engagement Manager for Tameside. So we've all come here to kind of guide you through what the census is and when it's taking place this year. And we'll cover a brief history of the census, what it is and why it's so important, and the process of acquiring and filling the form in, because for the first time this year it will be a digital first census, but paper versions are still available if you require them. And then we'll go through what additional help is available and where you can get it either for yourself or for people you may be caring for. So what is the census and why it matters to everyone? I'll hand over to Steve.
Great, thanks Elaine. So census has been around for a long time and I'll come on to specific details of that in a sec. But census is about effectively taking a snapshot in society, reflecting what we've been and what we are going to be as a nation. Most people will be aware. If you're not aware, our next census is less than 3 weeks away now. It's the Sunday the 21st of March, and we have ours every 10 years. Elaine, have you pressed the next button? As Elaine's already said, this time is essentially a digital first census, but it's not a digital only census. So we're expecting, for instance, around 75% completion rate online across the country, and 25% will be done on paper. Given COVID and restrictions, that might change a little bit, and provisions are put into the system to do that. Our role as census engagement managers effectively is ensuring that the underrepresented groups in society have their voice heard, essentially in terms of completion. Because completion actually has big impacts, both in terms of charities, voluntary sector, government framework, etc. And the key thing as well is, for some people, census will be really daunting, particularly those who might be have very limited access to digital provision. So the whole census team and background is geared to not only help people complete online and the facilities to do that, but also any concerns people might have from a community level, from how they might actually answer some of the questions. And I know Elaine and Graham will go through that at some length. So the history of the census. It will be very brief. I won't take you every census back to the year dot. But as I said, census is important to many societies. So it's been done as a measure of the population across many countries in many years. And some of the censuses are quite ancient. But in terms of its relevance to the UK, the first formal census was actually in 1801. It was essentially created at that time. There's two stories. One is a register of the population. The other was about ensuring that there was enough food provision in the country at a time where food was quite limited in output in terms of crops, and there'd been some pressure on harvest, etc. So it's a means of trying to manage population growth and understanding who needed support, really. That moved on to 1841, which was the first door-to-door surveys, effectively, just seeing where people lived, what the occupations were. When we get to 1851, this is when we start to get more detail. So that was trying to capture more age, household size, etc. When we get to 1921, and additional questions were then asked into terms of the census format then, that's the first compulsory, so mandatory and legally to say you must complete, and that has carried on till this day. In 1931, actually, census was completed, but all the records were burnt. There was a massive fire where the records were stored. So people who might be tracing their family histories, for instance, will have a massive gap. So 1921 survey will be released as a general population next year in terms of history there. So again, people tracing the family tree. But then we'll have 20 years of no data, because 1931 records were destroyed, and 1941 is the only time, due to World War II, that we didn't have a census. So we then fast forward to the heady days of the 60s. It is the first time we captured a lot of information on computer. And as you can imagine, way back then, a computer probably filled several equivalents of large buildings just to get this information together. In 2001, the census itself started to become more sophisticated, looking at greater depth of information from people. So religion was added as a voluntary question, and that's been carried through subsequently, and it's been built on over those subsequent census events. 2011, again, we're building on that, and that's the first time people could effectively do stuff online. But as you can imagine, back then we weren't pushing it from census, but also in terms of people were still automatically filling via paper. So the call to action from our perspective was always fill it in with paper. You can then do it online. Obviously now, 2021, that emphasis has totally shifted, and we are looking to encourage as many people as possible to fill in online. And then those that can't, either don't have access to computers or would prefer paper, we will ensure that we give those as well. So that's the context of why we do it. Why does it work, and what do we need? Essentially, as we've touched on before, it helps shape policy from a governmental perspective. That's national and locally. It allows us to allocate resources for new initiatives, new plans, new infrastructure, and also, in its broadest sense, monitors the equality and no one's left out in our society. Make sure everyone's voices are heard. So if we see how that changes to a more practical level at a what's in it for everyone perspective, not surprisingly, the better the input of information, so the more people that actually complete census, the better its output and ability for people to use that information. So how is that information used? In its broadest sense, and in 12 months' time, the raw data will be available in terms of its analysis. So we've said it's about planning, and that's at a governmental level, local level, charity and third-party level, in terms of what are the future needs that everybody requires going forward. public health and social care is a massive part of this. So where are the pockets of deprivation? Where are the where health outcomes are lower in the country? And again, by giving us that information, we can process that and move that forward. So housing requirements in terms of what is really needed at a local level. What house sizes do they need to be? Does it need to be social housing provision? Does it need to be new energy efficient housing, etc.? All those sort of things will come out from the data. And not surprisingly, then infrastructurally, locally. So what education needs are required? Do we need to build new schools? What are those schools look like? Do they have to be primary, secondary, of that nature? What are the language capabilities and those sort of things? And then infrastructurally in terms of transportation and things like getting your bins collected and etc. etc. All that information, whilst you might not think about it, putting it into the process is what happens. So Elaine will just take you through now the actual nuts and bolts of the getting down to census.
Thanks, Steve. Yes, so this is a timeline of how we've been working towards Census Day, which obviously is the 21st of March, as we've said, and everything that the logistics of it basically, and how everybody will be informed about how to fill in their census form. So we as CEMs, community engagement managers, we've been working since last year with our community advisors to work with communities and local authorities within our boroughs and develop plans so that we understand where communities are and how we support them, and understand the barriers that anybody might have in order to kind of work with them and give them the knowledge of the census and the benefits towards the census. And since February, hopefully a few of you have seen the TV campaign that has been going ahead. We're doing a lot of radio shows, we're in newspapers, we're targeting key population group newspapers too. So we're doing a lot of word out there in the press. And we've also launched our online help, which I'll go through more detail in a wee while. Hopefully all of you by now have received your postcard. So there was a postcard sent out at the end of February, beginning of March. So if you haven't got it yet, it'll be within the next day or so. And that's just a postcard to let you know that every household has been counted and that you will be receiving your census pack very soon. As I say, we've got a lot of help available, and we'll go through in detail how you access that help and where it is. But we have contact centres in every local borough, and we also have a telephone line, a national telephone line, which can provide a help service. And as I say, we have the website as well that has a lot of information on there and materials to support lots of different people complete the census. So this is where it gets exciting, because the packs actually start to come through as of this week. And I'll show you what the pack looks like in just a moment. And the idea would be that whether you fill it in, because you can start to fill it in as you get the pack, but what we want you to be aware of is that you have to kind of think to the 21st of March. So we want that snapshot that you record on your census to be as you are, as you live, lockdown or no lockdown, in the 21st of March. And you know, we've made provisions on the particularly on the online census to accommodate for the fact that we're kind of living lives that we wouldn't usually live. That has been accommodated on the electronic questionnaire. So on the 21st of March, we want you to complete. If you fill it in a little bit before, that's absolutely fine. And a little bit after is okay too, but just be careful, because there will be reminder letters coming through the door. So we will keep kind of pushing for the completion of the census. We'll also have field staff coming on board as well, which will be completely operated under COVID regulations, and they're wearing PPE. They won't cross any thresholds they'll keep their distance, but they will be on hand to assist people on a door-to-door level. So it might be ordering paper forms for people that can't get online, that kind of thing. And then we're kind of aiming for everybody to complete by the end of April. The beauty of doing it online, which I'll flick to now, is that we get instant kind of feedback from people filling it in. So as soon as you fill it in online and press that submit button, we have we have visibility of it. We're not waiting for the postman to deliver it to ONS headquarters. You know, we've got visibility straight away, which is fantastic. What this means is that we can be more precise on the ground as well. So if we see that there's certain spots in certain boroughs that need help, or maybe need more completion activity from our point of view to aid completion, then we can react to that data coming through. It also means the quality of data is a lot more precise and higher quality, because we're almost kind of we've got prompts within the electronic questionnaire to help people fill it in. So you'll start typing a word in and it'll come up for you, and you just click on it, that kind of thing. As Steve quite rightly pointed out, we're hoping for about 75% online responses this time. So you know that's a fantastic figure, and people can fill it in literally from their phone, from their laptop, or whatever. So we're hoping for that. And overall, across England and Wales, we're aiming for a 94% overall completion rate. So that's paper and digital. So digital first, how it does improve. So as I say, there is a routing service through the questionnaire online. So what that means is your questions will pop up in relation to the last one you've answered. So you're not having to wade through lots of different questions to get to the ones that are relevant to you. It will route you to the most relevant question automatically. So it speeds things up for you and makes it much easier. There's a search as you type function. So you start typing a word and that word will pop up. So you can just select it. So there's no spelling errors. We'll be able to read it, you know, we'll be able to read anybody's answers put through. So it makes things a lot easier for you and a lot easier for the data coming through. It makes it more clear. And it's easy access to additional questions, guidance, so that on each question that you'll see on the form, there'll be a little kind of tip or a note for ease. There's also a web chat available as well. So if you got through to the question, to a question, then you didn't understand how to answer it, there's various support you can get available from your own home, either via the phone line, which we'll talk about in a moment, or via the website. So it improves the data quality, it speeds up the returns, as I say, but we do understand that not everybody is going to be au fait with this. So we still want paper copies coming through. So how it works is that this is the form that you'll receive, part of the pack that you'll receive. 90% of the addresses in England and Wales will receive a form just like this. And I've circled two areas of the form because they're the most important bits. In the top right-hand corner, you have the telephone line, which is a free phone telephone line. And that from that telephone line, you can get help, or you can order a paper copy. So there's an 8-digit number just in red, or you can just about see it on this presentation, that will allow you to call the 0800 number, choose option 1, and then you type in that number and you'll automatically get sent a paper copy. So it's really nice and easy. If you wanted to go straight on the Census website and fill in your digital copy, then the code you need is the big, long 16-digit number in the middle of your pack. So that's unique to your household. So every household gets a unique number, and that will be the one that you use to fill in your census form. As long as you keep that number safe, you can save the work that you do on your census and go back to it at any point, but you do need to keep hold of that same number. If you do lose it, you can ring up the helpline again, which you can get from the websites, and they will send you a new number, but it means that any work that you've previously done would be lost. So it's good to keep hold of that number nice and safe. So for those that can't respond online, because we know there's a lot of people out there that won't be able to, there are the 5 routes to getting a paper questionnaire if they want it. It's also really important to point out that you can actually, for those that are that really would struggle to fill it in either on digital or on the paper form, we do offer a telephone service, and that'll be gone through in more detail. So you could literally fill it in over a secure phone call with a member of the ONS team over the phone to using the same 0800 number. But we're trying to keep that for people that really need it. So paper questionnaires, there are 5 routes. 10% of households will automatically get a paper copy. And we send them a paper copy because we know the people within the households that we're targeting will complete forms and surveys and things like that, but they usually do it via a paper copy. So those people will get the 10% of the first paper copy. It would then be sent, if you haven't managed to fill it in, and we've sent you 2 reminder letters, by the 3rd reminder letter, you will automatically get a paper copy. So if you haven't ordered one previously and we've sent you a couple of reminder letters, you'll then get it on the 3rd one. And then that'll be followed up by a field team member as well. You can get one via the contact centre, as I say, so that's via online or via the telephone number. And then the field officers, as I say, they'll be coming around after Census Day. If you haven't managed to fill it in, they'll be there to support you in any way they can. Okay. Over to Graham.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. I suppose the really thing to say about support is, excuse me, just take a drink of water, is the fact that it is really an important thing to provide, you know, sound support that's relevant and robust and helps the public. I suppose really at the end of the day, it's all about achieving equality for everybody. So there is quite a comprehensive package of support. And starting there with public telephone contact centre, where we have advisor support, as a comprehensive language line, and also completion over the telephone, which is likely to take place because it's, you know, digital first census, and also there's a text relay. Then in addition to that, we have across Oldham, Rochdale and Tameside walk-in census support centres. And of course we've got restrictions at the moment, and I can explain that a little bit more as we move through the presentation. Following on from that, there's online support, including web chats, as you can imagine, this day and age. And also within each borough, there's an extensive census field staff. We have a communal team dealing with communal establishments, for example, care homes and so on. And we also have a household team. So we've listed there for you the actual census support line, which is now live, and on that support line you can order a paper copy if you require. As has been said previously, 90% of households will be receiving their digital pack, but they can get the paper copy individual form and also receive help. There's also a text relay service, as you can see there, and also a language line with up to 200 languages. So the telephone lines offer help, they answer questions and give guidance, and even support with completion of the census over the phone, and in a very, very secure manner. Thank you. So the telephone lines themselves are open now from 8 in the morning till 8 in the evening, and then on Saturdays from 8 till 1. And the census weekend, 21st of March being the key date, they're actually open from 8 in the morning till 8 in the evening. And when you call the line, the support line, It's basically an interactive voice response, and you will receive 3 options. So immediately you'll be able to go to option 1 and order a paper questionnaire. And then for option 2, there's frequently asked questions. And then the final option is, of course, you can then speak to the relevant advisor. So this is how the website actually looks. And as I say, it is live now. You can go on and have a look yourself. And you can even start your census and request a code if you wish. I guess most people will be waiting for their codes to come through with the census pack. And I believe Steve himself has actually received his already. So they're actually starting to arrive. And I'm sure that you know, each member of the team here will receive it at some point. Thank you. And of course, in the days of equality, and that's absolutely correct, you know, the census needs to be accessible for everybody. So as we say, paper versions are available. You know, as we recall from 2011, there are large print formats, Braille, British Sign Language, and if you go on the website, you can see I think there's a sign language video for every single question. With audio and subtitles. There's easy read leaflets, text relay. I mean, the support really is extensive, and you know, I think everybody in the public will be quite impressed with it. And language support, which is of course important for our, you know, the demographics of our region, is very, very important. So just moving on to the census support centres, which you know, have all gone live from March the 1st. In Oldham, we have the Central Library and the Crompton Library, and then through Rochdale, we have various locations listed there with the number of PCs. In Tameside, it's all in the libraries, with Ashton being the main hub. And most of these facilities right at this moment are probably offering just telephone support due to COVID, but you can make appointments to actually utilize the facilities as an individual on your own. And really what the guidance is at the moment is that maybe as restrictions will rise, we then maybe see face-to-face interaction. And as the census does run from March the 1st till May the 3rd, it is likely that will take place, particularly if, you know, as if the good news continues, as we're seeing in the news regarding you know, the roadmap that Mr. Johnson put out last Monday. Okay. So how can you support? Obviously, we've been working a lot with Action Together, and you know, it's a great set group of people. And really, it's just to, you know, spread the word. You know, signpost the help online and paper forms if needed, and you know, direct people to the website or the telephone. And, you know, please remember that we actually don't want you to complete the census on someone's behalf, unless they know you and trust you, and that's important. And, you know, you guys and ourselves, actually, all we're here for is just to help support people.
Brilliant.
Okay,
That's
thank you.
Great. Thank you, Graham. So yeah, that's a real overview of what's available. There's so much detail, and we do feel the best way is just to, if you do have time, to have a look at the census website and look at the help tab, and just get an idea of all the different products that are available to assist. It has been designed to be as simple and as easy as possible. And I did a meeting with some libraries yesterday, and a few of them had already received their packs, and they were saying how good it was and how simple it was to fill in, and that they had no problems. So we're really hoping that most people will be able to do this without any trouble whatsoever. We've inserted our emails here. So obviously I look after Rochdale, Steve looks after Oldham, and Graham looks after Tameside, and we'd be more than happy to hear from you and assist you. If you've got community groups, or you're a volunteer, or you're a carer and you need additional information, please email us, because we do have a help guide that we can post out to you if we haven't done that already. We're sending it out to as many people as we can do. We've also made a note of the census website there and our social media handles. So if you could share our social media posts to get the word out to communities you're working with, that would be much appreciated. As we say, we're working really closely with all the local authorities too. So we've put their website addresses on there, as we'll be updating their websites. We'll have a census page as we go through the census completion, and any updates regarding help that's available within the local areas will be updated there. I know that already, since this slide has been done, there's been updates on the community centres that can help. So it's well worth looking at that. Looking at the websites from the local authorities, because they'll have the most up-to-date information. And that's great. Any questions for us? That would be fantastic.
I've got a comment. I should probably introduce myself. So I'm the Townships and Communities Manager for Rochdale Council. But within my role, I also lead on our work with the Armed Forces family. And I'm pleased to see that there is a question for the first time in the census about whether you are or have been a member of the Armed Forces, because one of the problems we have in our efforts to assist veterans is we don't know where they are. They leave the army doesn't ask them where they're going to settle, so they don't contact Rochdale and say you have a veteran come in and he's going to be homeless. So it's a step in the right direction to try and gather that information. It will help in the future, I'm sure. I've actually seen the presentation before. It's the community-based network, so I've not got questions as such, but Elaine, we talked about some of the community centres helping. And we said there were gaps, didn't we, in Haywood, which Crimblecroft stepped forward.
Yes.
But also Pennines. Did you manage to get anything for Pennines?
We've emailed them out, but I haven't heard anything back yet.
Right.
But Val, yeah,
Okay.
we've had some really good responses, so
Right.
it's all going out there. But I will chase them up. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you need any help from me or my team in trying to get hold of somebody, it's kind of Littleborough, Milnrow, Smallbridge areas.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. That's great, Val. Thank you. I can email you that, Val, actually. Yeah.
We're quite interested in that.
I think for Rochdale, we were at 93% completion rate. Yeah, so the national average was 94%, and we got 93%.
Right.
So we haven't got the information we've been given. It's more percentage rather than actual counts.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to echo that, Oldham were 92%. And I think they were 92.8% in 2001. So we've actually seen a downward trend versus the national. I think that's probably reflected in both Rochdale and Tameside as well. So the fact that with the dynamics changing a lot as well with the online, actually in some aspects makes it easier for people to complete, but also for boroughs like ourselves that do have real pockets of deprivation, it might make it worse. So that's where the support networks that we've just talked about and actually you perpetuating the census message is going to help a great deal.
So I just wanted to say, it's Tanzeem from Rochdale Women's Welfare Association, and hello everyone. I found the presentation very useful because we are in contact with our community and they are contacting us through phone and whatnot. So it's been really useful to know what support is out there. Obviously, we've been hearing about census now for some time, and I was just gonna say I received a card just to say that the census will be coming down soon. So obviously I'll get on with my own, but it's good to know what help is available and where it is available, so we can direct people to those places. And language line would be, I think, a savior, where people can just ring in and request for a language and just get their queries answered and hopefully fill in the form. And we'll do our best in the community to encourage people to fill it in, and if they need any support, direct them to the right people. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. That's great feedback. The language line is a fantastic operation in itself, really. We'll have support available in up to 200 languages, you know, so it's fantastic, and it's a real person that the person would be speaking to. All that they need to sorry, excuse me, all they need to say if they can't speak any English is they just need to communicate what language they speak in their native tongue, and the people on the other end of the phone are geared up to then get the right person for them to talk to them. So it's a fantastic service, and we're hoping that it'll break down some of the barriers that people may have.
Brilliant, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Thank you so much, Elaine, Graham and Stephen. That was great.
It was brilliant.